The Boy and the Princess. The colony planet Eros 9 was quiet that day. The twin moons hung low in the sky, and the air felt warm like a soft blanket. 10-year-old Noah Lane sat on a hill near his family's small home, playing with pebbles and pretending they were starships. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Then, he saw her. A small ship crashed far across the plains, leaving smoke and fire behind. His parents, both engineers, ran toward the smoke to help. Noah followed carefully, hiding behind a rock. What he saw shocked him. It was a girl, not human. She had glowing silver skin, long white hair, and strange crystal-like eyes. She wore a torn dress that sparkled like the night sky. Her arm was injured and she was shaking from fear. Noah stepped forward slowly. She looked at him, eyes wide. She didn't speak his language, but her fear was clear. Noah knelt in front of her and whispered gently, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." His mother came running and gasped, "Noah, back away." But the girl didn't attack. She only hugged her knees and cried. Noah's father spoke into his radio. "We've found a Zayari child. She's alone. Possibly royalty." That night they brought her into their home. She didn't speak much, but she watched everything. Noah gave her his blanket. He even offered her his favorite toy, a tiny plastic moon rover. She didn't smile, but she held the rover tightly. For the next 3 days they cared for her. Noah learned her name, Elira. He started drawing pictures to talk to her. Stars, planets, birds. She responded by drawing too. She liked flowers. She drew fire sometimes. She liked being near the window. One evening they sat under the twin moons again. Elira looked up and pointed at the sky. "Home," she whispered softly, her first word in English. Noah nodded. "You'll go home soon." She looked down. Sadness in her glowing eyes. Then Noah reached out and held her hand. "When I grow up, I'll find you again. I'll marry you. I promise." Elira looked at him surprised. Then, she smiled. Just once. A real smile. The next morning, royal guards came. They wore golden armor and moved like wind. Elira didn't resist. She simply looked at Noah one last time. She pressed something into his hand. A crystal shard from her broken necklace. Then she left. Noah didn't cry. But that night he held the shard tightly in his hand, staring up at the twin moons. He didn't understand why, but he knew his words were more than just child's play. He had made a promise. 10 years. Later, Noah was now a young man, strong, calm, and serious. He wore the black uniform of Earth's Diplomatic Defense Unit. He had seen war, though not from the front lines. He had learned the galaxy was cruel, that people made promises and broke them. But even after all these years, he still kept the crystal shard in his pocket. One day, his commander handed him a sealed assignment file. "You're being deployed to Zayara Prime. It's a high honor. One of their royal family members requested human security for a peace ceremony." Noah blinked. "Me? Why me?" "No idea," the commander said. "But the request came from inside the palace. Someone picked you by name." Noah opened the file, and his heart stopped. The name at the top was Princess Elira. He closed the file slowly. His hands were shaking. She remembered him, after all these years. She remembered. The promise was still alive. But why now? And what did she want? From him? Was this just diplomacy or something more? Noah stood by the window looking out into the stars. "I told you I'd come back," he whispered. "Now I will." Destiny's assignment. The ship moved quietly through space, stars passing like rivers of light outside the windows. Inside, Noah Lane sat alone staring at his hands. He had been on many missions before, but this one felt different. This time, he wasn't just a soldier. He was going to meet the girl he had once promised to marry. He still remembered the day she left. The little alien girl with the silver skin, the broken necklace, the shy smile under the twin moons. Now she was a princess, and he was just a man with a memory. He touched the crystal shard in his pocket. It still glowed faintly, just like before. Ziyara Prime appeared in the distance, the royal planet of the Zayari Empire. It was more beautiful than anything he had seen, floating towers, glowing rivers in the sky, and light crystals that danced in the air. The ship landed at the edge of the royal garden. Dozens of guards waited silently. Their armor shimmered with gold and blue. Noah stepped off the ship and stood tall, but his heart was pounding. One of the guards stepped forward. "Follow me, human. The princess is waiting." The halls were wide and full of glowing symbols. Noah walked past statues of ancient warriors and paintings of starfields. He stopped in front of a tall silver door. The guard nodded. "Go in alone." Noah took a breath and stepped through. She stood at the far end of the room, facing away, looking out over the floating city. Her silver hair was longer now, braided with tiny stars. Her dress moved like water. "You kept it," she said softly. Noah froze. Her voice. It was calm, warm, familiar. He slowly walked forward. Illyra turned around. Her eyes were the same. Bright, kind, strange, beautiful. He couldn't speak at first. Then finally, "You remember me?" She smiled gently. "You're the little boy who gave me his toy rover, the one who promised to marry me under the moons." Noah blushed slightly. "I didn't think you'd actually remember that." She walked closer. "I remembered every day." There was a long silence between them. Noah finally spoke. "Why did you ask for me?" Illyra looked at him seriously. "Because a war is coming, and the bond between our kinds is breaking. I wanted to show my people that trust can still live. And I wanted to see if you had forgotten me." He pulled the crystal shard from his pocket and held it up. "I didn't forget anything." Her face softened. For a moment she looked like the same girl he once met. But then her voice grew firm again. "You'll be by my side during the peace ceremony. But not everyone is happy about it." "What do you mean?" "There are enemies in my court. Some want to start another war. They'll try to use you as proof that humans are weak, or worse, dangerous." Noah nodded. "Then I'll give them nothing to use." Illyra stepped even closer. Her hand touched his. "You've already given me something." He looked down at their hands, and for a moment the shard between them glowed again, brighter this time. Later that night, Noah was taken to a guest room in the royal palace. He couldn't sleep. He stood by the window, looking at the twin moons, above Zayara. The same moons they sat under as children, the same sky. But everything had changed. He wasn't a boy anymore, and she wasn't just a lost girl in the desert. Now they stood between two worlds, holding a promise made long ago. But deep, in the palace, someone was watching. A hooded figure stood in the shadows of the great hall, listening to whispers from a small comm device. "The human is here. The bond is real. It must be broken." The figure turned and disappeared into the darkness. The reunion was only the beginning. The promise remembered. The royal garden of Ziyara Prime glowed under the soft light of the twin moons. Strange birds flew above giant crystal trees. The air smelled like fireflowers and fresh water. Noah Lane walked beside Princess Illyra, their footsteps soft on the silver stones. No guards followed. No soldiers watched. It was their moment. She stopped beside a small fountain and sat down on a curved bench. The water glowed with soft green light. "You still walk like a soldier," she said with a small smile. Noah gave a quiet laugh. "And you still talk like a queen." Illyra shook her head gently. "I don't feel like one around you." They sat in silence for a moment. The wind was cool, and the night was still. Then Illyra pulled something from the pouch at her side. It was old and scratched, but still whole. The plastic toy rover. Noah stared at it, stunned. You kept that? I held it every night for years, she said, until I was old enough to realize you might never come back. Noah looked down. I almost didn't. Why? Because I thought you wouldn't care anymore, that I was just a memory to you. She turned to him, her voice quiet but sharp. You were the only human who ever treated me like I was just a girl, not a princess, not an alien. Just me. Noah looked into her glowing eyes. I was a boy with nothing, but I had words, and I meant everyone. Elira reached out slowly and touched the crystal shard still hanging from his chain. The moment her fingers brushed it, a pulse of light shot between them. Soft, gold, warm. She pulled her hand back quickly. You still have the bond, she whispered. It's rare, pure. Noah blinked. What does it mean? It means you're not here just by luck. You're part of something greater. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a flicker of movement in the trees. Noah stood quickly, eyes sharp. From behind a tall pillar, a masked figure darted away into the darkness. Elira's voice dropped. They've started watching us. Noah's jaw tightened. Let them watch. I won't hide. Elira looked at him, serious now. This is more than politics. My people believe emotions weaken the crown. If they think I've chosen you for love. She didn't finish. But Noah already knew what she meant. Later that evening, they stood in the royal library, lit by floating blue lights. Elira pulled out an ancient scroll, Zayari, writing carved in silver lines. It's called the Echo Bond, she explained. Once formed in childhood, it cannot be broken. Not by time, not by species, not even by death. Noah stared at the symbols. So when I made that promise, it echoed into me, she said, and I echoed back. Suddenly, the doors slammed open. Royal guard stepped in. Behind them stood Lady Soraya, head of the royal elders. She stared at Noah with cold eyes. The council demands a hearing, she said. The bond threatens the balance. If the princess refuses to step away from the human, she may lose her claim to the throne. Elira stood tall. Then I'll give up the throne. Gasps filled the room. Noah's heart raced. You don't have to, she raised a hand. No, Noah, I'm tired of being a symbol. You were the only real thing I had as a child, and you're the only truth I have now. That night in her private chamber, she gave him a simple ring, formed of twin metals, one from Earth, one from Zayara. I don't know what happens next, she said, but I want to wear this when I stand before them tomorrow. He took her hand. I made a promise when I was 10, Noah said softly, and tomorrow I'll keep it. But far away, in the shadows of the palace, a group of masked rebels met in secret. The princess has chosen the human, one of them hissed. Then we take her before she can speak, and end the bond forever. Escape and fire. The night was quiet, but too quiet. A strange wind blew through the royal palace. The crystal torches flickered. The guards outside the princess's wing stood still, but their eyes kept shifting nervously. Inside, Noah stood by the window, his back straight, his ears sharp. Something felt wrong. Elira sat by her desk holding the ring Noah had given her. She smiled, but her smile faded quickly. I hear whispers. Some say I'm betraying my blood. Noah turned to her. You're choosing your own future, that's not betrayal. Before she could answer, the lights in the room flickered. Then, a loud blast shook the palace walls. Flames exploded from the hallway. Screams, guards shouting, footsteps, fast, heavy. Noah grabbed Elira's hand. We have to move. Now. They ran through the servants' door, down a narrow stairway lit only by blue crystals. Smoke filled the air. Shadows moved fast behind them. Elira gasped. They've come for me. The rebels. Someone helped them. Inside. They turned into the lower chamber, but 3 masked attackers stood there, armed with energy blades. One pointed at Noah. The human dies. The bond ends tonight. Noah didn't hesitate. He grabbed a metal bar from the wall and swung at the nearest attacker. The blade missed his shoulder by inches. He blocked another strike and pushed Elira behind him. "Run!" he shouted. But she didn't. She raised her hands, and a blast of white energy pulsed from her palms. The rebels were knocked backward, stunned. Noah blinked. "You never said you could do that." Elira smirked. "I don't like to brag." They raced down into the old escape tunnels, long forgotten by most, but remembered by Elira. "I used to hide down here as a child," she said, catching her breath. "When I was afraid." He looked at her. "Are you afraid now?" She nodded. "Yes, but not for me." Outside the palace, they reached the edge of the sky docks. A small travel ship was hidden under a tarp. Noah uncovered it quickly and helped her inside. "You've flown one of these before?" she asked. "Nope," he said, "but there's a first time for everything." The ship lifted into the sky, unsteady at first, but soon sped toward the dark clouds beyond the city. Behind them, alarms wailed. Red lights filled the air. The palace was in flames. Inside the cockpit, Elira placed her hand over Noah's. "You saved me again." He kept his eyes on the stars. "You saved me first, remember?" With that little smile. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "But where do we go now?" she asked. "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere they can't reach us." They landed on Moon Station 7, a long-forgotten refueling base near the planet's edge. Broken lights, empty halls, cold wind inside metal walls. But it was safe. They built a small fire from old heat cores. They ate simple food from the ship's supplies. They sat close, saying nothing. And yet, everything was said. Later that night, Elira looked into his eyes. "I always believed in you," she whispered. "Even when I didn't know why." Noah held her hand. "I thought I was just a kid with a silly dream, but it was never just a dream." She leaned closer. Their foreheads touched. He whispered, "I still mean it. I'll marry you, even now." Tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. "You already did," she whispered. "That night under the moons. That was my vow." But far away, on Zayara Prime, Lady Soraya stood over a map of the stars. She marked a red circle around Moon Station 7. Her voice was cold. "Find them. If they make it to the ceremony, the bond becomes law. We end this before sunrise. The prisoners resolve." The sky over Moon Station 7 was filled with fire. Ziyari hunter ships descended from the stars, dark and silent like shadows from a nightmare. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed red. The quiet was gone. Noah and Elira ran toward their ship, but it was too late. A blast hit the ground beside them, throwing them apart. Noah hit the floor hard. His vision blurred. He saw 3 armored rebels grab Elira, pulling her back. She screamed his name. "Noah!" He tried to move. Another blast of light. Then everything went black. When he woke up, it was cold. Steel walls. No windows. Just one small light above his head. He was locked in a Zayari prison cube, alone in deep space. His wrists were bound by glowing cuffs. A small speaker in the wall buzzed. "You're far from your princess now, human." Noah didn't answer. He stared at the wall. He still felt the warmth of her hand in his, still heard her whisper, "You already did." Days passed. He didn't know how many. Every few hours a voice returned, taunting him. "You're not special. She forgot you already. She's royalty. You're just a soldier." But they didn't know about the promise. They didn't understand the bond. Noah repeated it to himself every time he was alone. "I made a vow. I will keep it." Then one night something strange happened. A low hum filled the air. The cuffs around his wrists flickered, and a small voice came through the speaker, soft, gentle, and familiar. "Noah, it's me." His eyes widened. "Elira?" "Yes. I've taken control of the security signal. I only have a minute." "I'm okay," he said quickly. "Don't worry about me, just stay safe." "I'm coming for you," she said. "No," he shouted. "You're not safe." But the signal cut. Darkness again, but this time, there was hope. The next morning, the guards brought him food. Noah looked up calmly. "I'd like to speak to your leader." The guard laughed. "Why?" "I have something to say." They brought him before a small group of Zayari commanders inside a glass chamber. They thought they had broken him. They were wrong. He stood tall, even with chains on his hands. "You think keeping me here will break the bond," he said, voice strong. "But you can't break what you don't understand." One of the leaders scoffed. "You're just a human. She'll marry someone else. This is politics, not love." Noah smiled. "It started with a toy rover and a blanket. It grew in silence, and it will survive fire." "You're foolish." "No," he said. "I'm in love. That's stronger than fear." They laughed again. But deep down they felt it. The bond wasn't just real, it was dangerous to them because it gave people hope. That night the prison lights went out. For the first time in weeks, Noah saw stars outside a small crack in the side wall. Then he heard footsteps. The door opened with a soft hiss. A guard fell backward, and standing in the doorway, Elira, wearing black armor, eyes glowing, holding 2 Zayari stunners. "Noah," she said softly, "I told you I'd come." He couldn't speak. He just ran forward and held her. The world disappeared for a moment. Together, they ran through the prison. She had hacked the system, opened the cells, freed others, humans and Zayari both, prisoners of war, rebels, dreamers. The station turned to chaos, but Noah and Elira didn't stop. They reached the landing bay. One last ship waited. They climbed aboard. As the ship rose into space, alarms echoed behind them. The prison exploded in a chain of light and smoke, but they didn't look back. They held hands, stronger than before, closer than ever. "Where now?" Elira asked. Noah's eyes burned with purpose. "We go back, to Ziara Prime. Together, we finish what we started." She nodded. "One last fire," she whispered, "then peace." Trial by fire. The skies of Ziara Prime burned red as Noah's ship returned. Storm clouds gathered above the royal city. Thunder echoed through the towers. Word had spread. The human had returned, and the alien princess stood beside him. Inside the royal hall, the elders argued. He must be exiled. He is dangerous. He cannot take the trial. He is not one of us. But Elira stood before them with fire in her voice. "He carries the bond, he carries honor, and I carry his promise." The Empress, Elira's mother, raised her hand for silence. "If the bond is true," she said coldly, "then let him prove." Torsen the trial of fire and memory. That night Noah was brought to the ancient temple. The doors were carved with old symbols, stars, flames, and the mark of unity. Elira stood at the entrance, waiting. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "I do," he replied. "Not for your throne, for the promise." She touched his hand, eyes full of fear. "No human has ever survived the trial." He smiled gently. "Then I'll be the first." Inside, he stood alone. No weapons, no armor, just his heart. A flame lit in the center of the temple. Then a voice echoed all around him. "To love what is different is to burn. To stand between worlds is to bleed. Will you walk through fire for her?" Noah stepped forward. Yes. The floor cracked. Flames rose. He was pulled into the trial of memory. The fire didn't burn his skin, but it burned his thoughts. He saw his past, his childhood, his fear, his loneliness, the crash, the small alien girl, her smile, her pain. He saw her taken away. He saw the nights he cried, holding a crystal shard. Then he heard the voice again. "You were just a boy. You are not worthy." Noah fell to his knees. But then he saw one more image. Elira, running through fire to save him from the prison, her voice in his ear. You already did. He stood. I'm not just a boy anymore. I'm her promise. Suddenly, the flames turned white. The chamber filled with golden light. The floor rose up, and Noah stood alone, glowing softly. On his palm, the bond mark had appeared, shining with Zayari flame. Outside the temple, a hush fell. The doors opened. Noah stepped out. Elira gasped when she saw the mark. The elders stood in shock. Even the Empress rose from her throne. She walked slowly toward Noah. For a moment, the galaxy felt frozen. Then, she knelt. All my life, she said, I believed the bond was myth, but now I see. Truth walks among us. She looked at her daughter. If you still choose him, then I bless it. The next day, the city filled with lights. People gathered, humans, and Zayari side by side for the first time in history. The twin moons rose into the sky. Noah wore a simple robe of earth cloth. Elira wore silver robes of the stars. Together, they walked down the long, glowing bridge above the lake of light. They said no vows aloud. They didn't need to, because long ago, as children, they had already spoken them. When I grow up, I'll marry you. I'll wait. Later, they stood under the moons, just the two of them. Elira placed her hand on his chest. We've walked through fire. He held her close. We started with nothing but a promise. She smiled. And now, we have everything. The wedding. Under the twin moons, the city of Zayara Prime had never seen a night like this. Lights floated in the air. Star-shaped lanterns hovered over the palace. Music filled the wind. For the first time in history, humans and Zayari stood together, not in battle, but in peace. At the heart of it all stood Noah Lane and Princess Elira. The boy and the alien girl who had once sat under twin moons were now grown. Together, strong, and tonight, they would become one. The ceremony took place on the sky bridge, a floating path of glowing stone above the lake of firelights. People watched from every tower, hill, and screen across the galaxy. The story of their bond had spread far beyond. Zayara children wore ribbons on their arms, half blue for Earth, half silver for Zayara. The war was over. The bond had won. Elira walked slowly across the sky bridge. Her dress flowed like mist, covered in tiny stars that shimmered when she moved. At the other end stood Noah, wearing simple robes, a ring of twin metals already in his hand. He had no crown, no sword, just the promise he had kept for 10 years. The Empress herself began the ceremony. In a galaxy of war, two hearts remembered peace, she said. They met as children. They chose each other as strangers. And now they lead us forward, as one. Elira and Noah joined hands. Their bond marks glowed together, golden and warm. The crowd fell silent. Noah spoke first. I was just a boy with a dream that someone like her could love someone like me. And I made a promise. I kept it. Elira's voice trembled slightly. He gave me hope when I was lost. He gave me trust when my people feared, and he gave me a bond that never broke. The stars above them burned brighter. The twin moons reached their peak, and the Empress raised her hand. By flame and memory, by star and bond, I now join you in the name of peace. The crowd cheered. Firelights rose into the sky. 100 different species watched across the systems. Many wept, some clapped. Others simply stood in awe. Two worlds had been enemies, but love had changed everything. Later that night, away from the crowds, Elira and Noah stood at the old garden where they had first walked together. Elira looked up at the moons. Do you remember what you said here? Noah smiled. I said I'd marry you someday. She nodded. And now it's not someday anymore. He took her hand. No, it's forever. As they kissed under the twin moons, the stars above seemed to hum with quiet joy. And somewhere in a quiet room, A small plastic rover sat on a shelf beside a glowing crystal shard. Proof that even the smallest promise, if made from the heart, can change the universe. When two hearts believe, nothing is impossible, not even love between stars.